my sneakers to the ground. I do not jump, I move the earth down. Bear witness to the genius of my sound. Born at the bottom, but now I'm top down. Look, I'ma call it swagger. I slip through time zones like a looking dagger. Mad rubies on my chain. You can see your name bubbling, blood vein. Your girl's in my ear because she's sipping on my champagne. That's right, 6 figures in my back pocket. And that's right, 1 million in my safe deposit. That's right, I'm trill all day. On my way to.
All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you all are having a great start to your week. Welcome to the Best Damn Clemson show, where we cover the latest news in the sports world. I'm Evan Cooley, and today I'm joined by.
What's up, guys? It's Cole. Welcome back for another episode.
All right, and today we'll be diving into more college football. College football is officially back with Clemson kicking off their season this Saturday against Georgia. We'll get into all those details today as we draw closer to that highly anticipated game, and we will talk about our predictions. We'll also talk about the games from this past weekend from week 0, including the Georgia Tech-Florida State game, and SMU, who played Nevada and is the newcomer to the ACC this year. And we'll also get into other games that we are looking forward to this weekend. And as always, we want this show to be about you, the fans. So if you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the chat, and we'll be sure to address them during the show today. All right, Cole, how you feeling? Lifelong Clemson fan, and the season's just around the corner.
I'm actually feeling really good, if I'm being honest with you. It's been a long off season. It's finally back. Saturday it starts all. I think it all depends on the offense, man. I really do. We all know the defense and Barrett Carter, Wade Wood, as guys like that are going to show up. But to really see if this Clemson program is back to its glory days, as we know times before, it all depends on the offense and if it shows up or not.
And I'm looking forward to it. And I think that it was an interesting start because Georgia typically doesn't release their depth chart. And so that was no surprise that they didn't. But Clemson normally does ahead of their first game, but they chose not to this week. And I don't blame them. If Kirby doesn't want to release his depth chart, I don't see the point in Dabo releasing his. But some early games going on between those two teams there before the game even kicks off. So I'm excited to see it. I think that there's going to be some tempers flaring, getting back to when this used to be a rivalry game and they used to play all the time. So I'm excited to see it. And I think the key for me is, or what I'm really focused on, is the expectations. I think that Georgia has a lot more expectations on them going into this game. They're a 13.5-point favorite. Everybody pretty much expects them to win, which in my opinion puts a lot more pressure on them. I think when you're a heavily favored team going into a game, you automatically have more pressure on you than the team on the other side, because they know if they can pull off that upset, then really they're just proving everybody wrong. And I think that's what Clemson is looking to do week 1.
And I think Clemson believes, obviously the team's going to believe, but I think, as a Clemson in whole, that they believe that they can get it done. And I truly agree as well, because, this Georgia team's coming in with a lot of off-season distractions, stuff going on within the program. Right. I don't think their focus is entirely on this week 1 game versus Clemson. Obviously, they're going to say that to the media and this and that, but really, I think Clemson didn't release their depth chart just because Georgia didn't. But I don't think Georgia knows who can play and who can't.
Yeah.
So, obviously, they already got one running back missing Saturday due to a toe surgery, but is Trevor Etienne going to be in the backfield on the first drive for Georgia? Who knows?
Right. And speaking to some of that offseason drama, for those who don't know, Georgia had 23 players over the offseason get in trouble to some degree with law enforcement. Most of those were all driving related, which is pretty crazy. But there's definitely some drama surrounding that team and some question marks around who's going to be able to play week 1, who's not. So I'm interested to see. And then with Clemson, I think that their goal is to prove everyone wrong. I mean, people think that they're overrated at number 14 in the country heading into the season, which is crazy in my opinion. I think that 14 is, I think that makes sense as a spot for them to be right now. A lot of people forget that. A lot of people just look at their 9-4 season last year, but don't realized that they won their last 5 games last season after their loss to NC State, and they brought back most of that talent, and they have a lot to build on this year. 2 really, really good receivers coming in Wesco and TJ Moore. I mean, I'm excited to see what they can do. And that defense is ranked top 10 once again heading into the season. And Barrett Carter in his media session earlier today spoke about some of that disrespect that he feels like Clemson has had over the offseason. And yeah.
Yeah, going back to the what you said about the rankings and at 14, some Clemson fans think it's disrespect, and obviously everybody wants to be ranked pretty highly going into the season, but I would have been fine with nothing beside no number beside our team. Give us outside of the top 25. Let us play the number 1 team in the country with all that hype. I really don't think it's going to be a blowout. Only way it's a blowout if our offense is just awful. I mean, it's going to take a lot for it to be a blowout, I think. If your defense is on the field all game, it could get ugly. But if that Clemson offense brings some life and sparks a little bit and has that confidence that I think they have, and I feel like you need to get the momentum early, obviously. But, you just keep the defense off the field. I mean, obviously the defense is going to show up, but just don't let them be on the field all game. That was our problem most of the year. We'd fumble 4 times a game, so the defense was just obviously not getting enough breaks. If you let this Clemson offense get hot, it could get very interesting really fast.
Yeah, I agree. And going back to those rankings real quick that you mentioned, I think that heading into the season, the rankings, everyone makes a big deal about the rankings. But at the end of the day, if you win your games, you're going to be in that college football playoff. And the only thing the rankings really help at the beginning of the year is that the higher you're ranked, the more losses you can really afford and still make the college football playoff. But at the end of the day, if Clemson wins all but 2 games, possibly 3 games, they'll be in that college football playoff. And I think they're in a great spot right now. Obviously, this Georgia game, I really like them kicking off the season against Georgia because that Georgia game is going to be their hardest game on their schedule. 1. 2 is much easier to play a highly ranked team week 1 than it is week 8, especially a team that lost a lot of talent over the offseason like Georgia because they're going to have some inexperienced guys in there. Number 2 and number 3, I just think that heading into the season, this is right where Clemson wants to be, playing their hardest game on the schedule week 1. Then from there, moving slowly into ACC play, where they're going to have to play Florida State, Louisville, NC State, and Virginia Tech. And that Virginia Tech game, I think, is going to be the hardest game in ACC play for them.
Yeah, I agree. Exactly what you said. This team wants to play a number 1 team in the first game of the year rather than play, maybe a smaller tier team. You don't want to wait and play Georgia in the middle of your schedule at the end of the year to maybe decide your season. You could go ahead and get the best team in the country. You beat them, that's good. If you lose, it's not a bad loss. You're 0-1 going into week 2, obviously, but you got so many more games to look forward to rather than, we got Georgia week 8 or week 10. You got them week 1.
And if Clemson does take a loss week 1, if you lose to the number 1 team, you're not going to fall back that far in their rankings. They'll probably fall back. They'll fall back for sure, but probably only 16, 17 at worst. 17. Yeah.
Hopefully we're in the top 10 next week.
Yeah, definitely.
But,
and I'm interested to see how far Florida State falls. That'll be interesting to see for me.
I think outside the top 25.
I think so too. Based on the way that offense played, and we'll get into that shortly here. But staying with Georgia, Clemson, real quick. What are you mentioned it already a little bit, but what overall are your keys to that game for Clemson?
Clemson, Georgia. I mean, obviously, every time I'm going to say the offense, but I think just getting that momentum early, make a big play to rattle that Georgia team. If you defer, you're on defense first. Get that pick, that interception, force a fumble. Just get that little spark in your team, that little momentum that nobody hardly gets. I think just a little thing like that could stir Georgia up in the head and really force a great game. And I really did think it's going to be a great game. But I think all it takes for Clemson is just a little spark, man. It don't even have to be. We don't have to air it out first play. Just get something going. Get some life in that offense.
Yeah, and it's also a big game for a lot of these Clemson players. So I was listening to Phil Maffa's interview earlier today, and he was saying he's obviously from Georgia, and he spoke a little bit about his recruitment process and said that Georgia was one of the first teams that recruited him. But that throughout the whole process, he was kind of waiting for Clemson to jump in because he always wanted to go to Clemson. And he said that right when they offered him, he committed right away. And there's a lot of Georgia guys on this Clemson team. There's Maffa, there's Barrett Carter, there's a lot of other guys.
Plenty more.
And so, I mean, whenever a player can go back to his home state and play in a game, especially of this magnitude, Maffa referenced it as like a playoff-like game for both teams. I mean, those players are going to go in there ready to play and going to want to put on a show for their whole families and friends that made the trip.
Yeah, I think Khalil Barnes is from Atlanta as well. But, as you're saying, we got all these guys from Georgia, Atlanta, just outskirts. Like, it's going to be a homecoming for these guys. I mean, and it's a college football playoff game, in my opinion. You're in I think it's one of the host sites, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. But, this is going to be an atmosphere to see later in the season. And I think that's what these young guys need to see. Obviously Death Valley's loud, Athens is loud, but get them in a neutral site atmosphere and show, hey, this is why we work. This is what we worked for all summer. It's what we worked for all off season. Let's show up and prove the world wrong. That's kind of how it is.
We'll see how much of a neutral site it is. It's called a neutral site, but it's called
a neutral site. But I mean, I do think, obviously there's going to be more Georgia fans just because they probably got more tickets, but there's going to be a lot of orange for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. They travel well. We'll be right back after a short word from our sponsors.
Are you tired of scrolling endlessly to find the perfect deal?
Who said that?
Me.
Ah! Who are you? How did you get in my house?
Be not afraid. I'm the Frugal Fairy. See, at the Frugaling Shop, we bring the best deals to your doorstep, so you can spend less time searching and more time saving.
Yes, hello? There's a man with wings standing in my living room, and I'm scared.
Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling. That's what Harbor Oasis became for me, a slice of home in Anderson, South Carolina. I stumbled upon this heartwarming marketplace. Roaming through aisles of handcrafted treasures and local art, I felt each piece whispering stories of passion and dedication. It's a place where warmth meets creativity. Join me in experiencing this magical oasis. Explore the beauty, attend soul-enriching workshops, and support local artisans. See for yourself how Harbor Oasis can become a part of your story too. Experience the joy today at Harbor Oasis, located at 5013 SC 24 in Anderson. Have you ever stumbled upon a flavor sensation that sweeps you off your feet? That's Waffle Drop. Nestled in the heart of Greenville, we've spun up the traditional bubble waffle, a thrilling mix of pancake and waffle into an art form. From the whimsical Lil Blue Panda to the decadent Ferrero Rocher ice cream, every bite is an adventure. Imagine savoring a bubble waffle wrapped around your favorite ice cream. Now stop imagining. Visit us at Hampton Station or our new location at 500 Congaree Road in Greenville, which is open during the week to embark on your own delightful journey. Buy now and feel the happiness we blend into every serving. Experience the joy today at Waffle Drop.
All right, welcome back, everyone. And now let's move into a couple of the games from last weekend. There were 3 teams from the ACC that played last week: Florida State, Georgia Tech, and SMU. Cole, let's get into that Florida State Georgia Tech game first. What are your takeaways from that game?
I think I called it Thursday in our show at Reigns. I knew it was going to happen. I did. I knew Haynes King, what he could do at quarterback in that Georgia Tech offense. I think Georgia Tech is a big sleeper team for the ACC. Not maybe in like title talk or anything like that. I don't think their defense is good enough, but that offense is going to give a lot of top defenses in the country some trouble. Starting with Florida State, as their defense is supposed to be really good. But I knew it was coming, man. As much as I like DJ at Clemson, and he was the most selfless guy on the roster. He never made excuses for himself. I just knew it was coming. I knew his style of play. I literally felt like I was watching the 2021 Clemson team play.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
literally felt like I was watching that. It was nothing but screens and check downs and this like that. I was like, holy crap! I'm glad to see somebody else, another team looking like that. And I thought we were the only people. But with DJ at quarterback there, it kind of makes sense now.
Yeah.
But that was the only game I watched this weekend. I didn't get to the SMU game, but I know that was a crazy one, and SMU did end up pulling that out. But that Florida State Georgia Tech game was definitely one to watch.
Yeah, and I think you and I were both kind of thinking that Georgia Tech was going to come away with the win in that one. I mean, Georgia Tech's offense last year they had a great offense last year. It ranked top 3 in the country. And Haynes King led the ACC in interceptions, but he also led the ACC in touchdowns. And he has the ability to really make a jump this year as a elite quarterback in the ACC. They have great playmakers too, and their running back Jamal Haynes and Eric Singleton Jr., their receiver. And I mean, the most impressive thing about that Georgia Tech team, surprisingly to me, was on the offensive side of the ball, it was their offensive line. I mean, the holes that they opened up in the run game for Haynes King and Jamal Haynes, it was insane. I mean, Florida State got no penetration with their D-line that game at all.
Jamal Haynes is a stud. I didn't even, obviously we've heard about him, but, I was watching Georgia Tech to watch Haynes King, but that kid's good. He definitely ran the ball very well. And like I said, I think Georgia Tech is a very sleeper team in the ACC.
Yeah, I agree. They're one of my sleeper teams for sure. And their issue last year was their defense as a whole. And they went out and hired a new defensive coordinator who Nick Saban really, really likes. And he talked about that before the game. And Nick Saban picked Georgia Tech as his under-the-radar team in the ACC. And it's looking good for him after week 1. But, yeah, they went out and got a new DC. They brought in a lot of talent through the transfer portal for that defense. And now that we're talking about the transfer portal a little bit, I'll say that it's going to be interesting to see what teams emerge with the NIL. Incorporating it in the transfer portal, because Georgia Tech, they're located in Atlanta. I mean, they have, you would think, all the resources in the world to NIL opportunities for their players. And they're a team to me that as NIL gets bigger and bigger, could land top recruits. I mean, they're in a great recruiting location in Atlanta. And I mean, seem like they have all the NIL opportunities in the world at their hands.
Yeah, you would think so, being in Atlanta. But they actually haven't gotten any bad portal guys in the last 3 years. Obviously, they're not going to get the top guys in the country that want to go play at Texas, Oklahoma, stuff like that. But they've got some decent guys out of the portal. And I think, Haynes King, he was awful. Where did he come from, Texas A&M?
Yep.
He was awful at Texas A&M. It's like he just he was terrible. Now he's at a small ACC school. And he's playing good football, and he's got one of the top offenses in the country dating from last season. I think the only bad game he played last year was versus Clemson.
Yeah.
So, and I think we avoid Georgia Tech this year, which is I'm not scared of them, but that run game, it's a good team. Very, very trap game. Glad we avoid that for sure.
And yeah, I mean, I think that Florida State losing that game really opens up the conference completely. I mean, obviously, Florida State was the preseason favorite to win the ACC for the second year in a row. But now, I mean, you have Clemson's the new favorite to win the conference, and you have Georgia Tech in there, obviously, who, I mean, no one's really played yet, but right now they're at the top of the ACC. And then I think Virginia Tech's going to emerge as a contender too, and it'll be interesting to see what Miami does. I know you're a hater of them, but on paper, they have a very talented team. So there's a lot. The ACC is wide open right now, and it'll be interesting to see.
Symphonic Clown says Clemson had some arrests also. Don't skip over that. I don't think Clemson's arrests were near as much as Georgia. I think we had maybe one, and it was like the process of it wasn't even how it should have been handled. So that was obviously we'll skip over that, but yeah. So obviously, talking about Georgia Tech, and do you think, like, I'm gonna be real with you, I don't think they're gonna be in any kind of ACC championship talk unless they just absolutely shock the world this year. But I think obviously Clemson and Florida State are still the top two besides Virginia Tech and NC State. But I do think Georgia Tech maybe could. I don't know what their schedule looks like.
I think offensively, I think that's going to be what takes Florida State out of contention for the ACC. Obviously, they'll get better. Every team gets better throughout the season as they gain more experience. And Florida State did lose a lot of guys. I mean, that was a new team out there week one. And so obviously they'll get better as the season progresses. But I just don't think that their offense is going to be able to keep pace with teams like Virginia Tech. Miami, I don't even know if they'll be able to keep pace with them. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. But I think right now, I would say with how good Georgia Tech's offense was last year, they didn't lose any of their playmakers. They're only going to be better this year offensively. And so if their defense can hold up, I think that Georgia Tech does get in that conversation as a contender. And then I've already said I like Virginia Tech a lot to sneak in there. But it's going to sound crazy, but I think my focus is Clemson, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, and maybe NC State.
I can agree with that, actually. I still think Florida State's that second team as of right now, just because they lost week one, this and that. Yeah. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Florida State finished below 5 in the ACC.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me at all if they were a 6 or 7 kind of team. I think a team like SMU, who played their first game the other day, I mean, obviously they pulled away with a win. I don't know how good they played, how bad they played, didn't watch it. But I do think it could be.
They won 29-24, and they were favored by 27. So
not too
not,
good.
Not the best outcome for them.
But I do think it could go like Clemson, NC State, Virginia, or Clemson, Virginia Tech, NC State, Georgia Tech, SMU, Miami, Florida State. Who knows? But I do think if Clemson doesn't win or go to even play I feel like if Clemson doesn't play in the ACC title game, then what are we doing? That means you lose 2 to 3 plus games. But we'll see.
We will. And we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Nick and Norman's is a brand new restaurant on the West End. Located at 1 Augusta Street, we are bringing unique Southern-inspired cuisine and a speakeasy vibe to Greenville. Created by an ownership group headlined by Norman Reedus and Greg Nicotero, Nick and Norman's is more than just a restaurant. It's a destination for an unforgettable dining experience. Our hours are Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Our phone number is 864-236-5446. We also have a private dining room, so call for booking. Be sure to follow us on social media, on Instagram, and on Facebook.
They say a home is a safe haven, but what about when that safety is threatened? Last year, a storm hit our area hard, and suddenly the roof over my head, my family's shelter, was compromised. I felt vulnerable. But then Canopy Roofing stepped in. Their dedication, much like that of a caring family, restored more than just our roof. They restored our sense of security. If you're ever in need, let Canopy protect your haven too. Experience the same peace of mind. See for yourself how Canopy Roofing can safeguard your family's comfort and safety.
Have you ever bitten into a pizza and just known your taste buds were experiencing something totally unique? That was me at Crust and Craft in Greenville. Nestled right at 123 South Main Street, this isn't your average pizza joint. Their claim of "we do pizza differently" couldn't be truer. With creations like the Low Country Seafood Boil Pizza and exquisite $10 lunch specials, they're crafting flavors that defy the norm. Plus, The vibe? Unbeatable, especially with their new cocktail menu to sip on the patio. Head over to Crust and Craft Greenville, taste the difference for yourself. And seriously, do not miss out on their happy hour. Grab your slice of heaven today.
Ever find yourself needing custom gear that really stands out? At Carolina Printing Sports and Trophy in Hartsville, SC, we personalize everything from t-shirts to trophies, making sure your brand or team logo pops. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, or dazzling plaques, we've got you covered. Swing by today and let's create something unique just for you.
All right, welcome back, everybody. And let's take these last few minutes here to talk about other games this upcoming weekend. Cole, what games do you have your eye on around the country?
Off the top of my head, Penn State, West Virginia is going to be a really good one. And then obviously, I think all eyes are, besides Clemson, Georgia, or the Notre Dame and Texas A&M game. That's college game day primetime. I think that's going to be a really fun one to see. A newly led Riley Leonard offense with the addition of Bo Collins from Clemson. And I think that's also a game to see if Texas A&M is overrated. You know, is that Texas A&M team with a new head coach gonna go back to its old not glory days? They haven't had any glory days in a while, but I mean, are they going to go back to winning games? I mean, I think they've been bowless the last couple of years, but I don't know. I don't even think that's the best game on the schedule Saturday. I feel like Clemson and Georgia should have had college game day in prime time, but we're not going to complain.
Yeah. I like those same games. Those are what my eye is on too. I'm also looking to Thursday night with my under the radar matchup. I'm going North Dakota State against Colorado. I think that North Dakota State's going to pull off that upset against Deion Sanders' team. Like I talked about it last week, North Dakota State's won 6 of their last 7 matchups against FBS teams. And North Dakota State is a powerhouse in FCS. They should be an FBS team. I'm surprised they're not. But I cannot believe that Colorado scheduled them, because no FBS team has been scheduling North Dakota State lately because of how successful they've been against these teams. And so I'm really looking forward to that game, and I think North Dakota State's going to pull off that upset. Did you ever play North Dakota State, or did y'all ever cross paths at all? So last year, I went to Furman, for those who don't know, and played football there. And we played Montana in the quarterfinals last year, and we lost that game. But if we won, then we would have had North Dakota State at home. We would have played them at our place. So.
Really? Mm-hmm. That'll been a crazy game, actually.
Wait,
were y'all the higher seed?
Yeah, we were the higher seed. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. I do think I agree with you on the North Dakota State part. I think this Colorado team is overrated, in my opinion. I don't think they have the weapons outside of Shedeur and Travis Hunter. Two guys don't make up a whole roster, obviously. Yeah. But I do think, all these people like last year, Deion Sanders, Shedeur, Travis Hunter, are in the Pac-12 last year. Now they're in the Big 12. But coming from, a small Jackson State team, is Deion Sanders capable of leading a powerhouse, Power 4 team? I don't know. Yeah. What's he gonna do when Shedeur and them graduate? Is he gonna take a different jobs? Is he gonna be loyal to Colorado? Yeah, I think there's a lot of question marks surrounding that team. And I mean, if he has another year this year like they did last year, I don't know if he keeps his job at the end of the season. I think that there's been a lot of issues with that team when it comes to players leaving. I mean, obviously every team loses players to the transfer portal, but you don't see a team lose 30 players to the transfer portal for no reason. There's obviously some issues going on there, and some of those guys have came out and talked about that program. And I mean, I think there's a lot of egos on that team, and a team with a bunch of egos can't have a successful season, because everyone needs to be on the same page and play selflessly. Obviously, everyone wants to have a good season individually when it comes to their stats, but
you won't have a good season individually if your team doesn't have a good culture around them, and I don't know if they do.
Yeah.
So
I just don't feel like it's a college football town, anyways. Like, I mean, Boulder's actually really big party school.
yeah,
But I don't think they care enough about college football, or they care enough to produce guys outside of who's there now, like Travis Hunter and guys like
yeah.
that.
No, I agree.
As soon as they leave, they're going to fall off the map.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Well, guys, next time me and Cole talk to you on Tuesday, it'll be after Clemson plays Georgia. Come join us for a full breakdown of that next Tuesday at 1:00. And we will also talk about Clemson's game next week. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you again. Bye.
See you.